come from different sides of the story here, and I think that's really useful for us because when we talk about recycling, it's a bit of a catch-all phrase. So what I would like to do is find out a little bit more from each of you about the area you do work in, and then we'll move into a bit more of a discussion about what the challenges are as well as the opportunities, because there are plenty of both, I think it's fair to say. Dr. Drew, let me start with you. You are the high-profile area in many respects. You are about battery recycling. As a minister, you have worked on developing that within, one of the sprinters in this field in Korea. So perhaps you could explain some of the challenges that you've had to work through.
Yes. Thank you, David. I'd like to make a couple of points on the key challenges faced by battery recycling firms and the policy responses from the perspective of policy maker, drawing insights from my Korean experience. In close collaboration with our battery recycling firms, we've identified two critical challenges. One is to ensure stable supply of spent batteries. The other is to foster continuous technological innovations. Addressing these two challenges, we have been implementing a comprehensive legal, regulatory, infrastructure, and policy support system preemptively covering the entire life cycle of spent batteries. Our integrated approach spans crucial stages like collection, performance and safety evaluation, transportation and recycling, ensuring efficiency and consistency throughout. Our holistic approach focuses on efficiently securing critical minerals. Among other goals, reducing high import reliance on key battery raw materials, mostly from China. But by the way, China is our main competitor when it comes to batteries. And contributing to the realization of genuine circular battery manufacturing. Beginning with the challenge of stable supply, we recognize two primary sources of spent batteries and blank mass, domestic sources and the foreign imports. Establishing a systematic collection system is paramount for domestic sources. The question becomes then not just how, but who will lead this collection effort. A key consideration is whether to apply extended producer responsibility to battery manufacturers. While this is relevant for those manufacturing batteries with lower recovered metal values, such as LF batteries, it's worth extending that responsibility to other battery makers, including those of lithium-ion batteries. Here, the collaboration with EV makers, especially those engaged in battery exchange and leasing, along with junkyards, becomes pivotal in creating efficient collection effort. So our aim here is to encourage larger firms with technological and financial capacity, such as battery or EV makers, to enter this battery recycling market, avoiding the experience of small junkyards and SMEs dominating the used plastic recycling market, preventing larger firms from entering the market with new technological innovations and at scale, which led to very low recycling use.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting, you've hit so many points there, but what is interesting is that this is partly about actually energy security, in a sense, as well as that sort of competition edge, which we'll address those issues in a moment. Marco, can I turn to you? You need to tell us a bit about Ferroglobe, because when we're talking about recycling, it seems you have a bit of a challenge in your industry, which is a CO2 challenge, but the notion of recycling fits in a slightly different way.
Absolutely. Thank you, David. Yes, around Ferroglobe. Ferroglobe is the Western leader back integrated to produce silicon metal, silicon alloys, and manganese alloys. And as most of you know, silicon metal is a key product for the future, for battery development and for solar. You cannot produce solar without silicon metal. And in the future, I think you cannot produce efficient, fast recharging batteries without having silicon in the anode of batteries. In order to supply this market, one critical point is to have the right quartz. This world is full of quartz, absolutely full of quartz. But you need the quartz of high purity and high quality to produce the right product, silicon product. And having access to high quality quartz means less need for recycling. Okay, so the first challenge is shortage of high quality quartz. You want me to expand on other aspects?
A little.
Yeah. Now, when you are a producer, like any metallurgical producer, you need to focus on using every material that you can within your production cycle. This means when you mine quartz, you need high quality mining to eliminate scratch. When you produce silicon metal, you need to produce silicon metal with the lowest amount of energy per ton of product produced. When you produce silicon metal, when you grind the product either in lumps or powder like for solar, you need to have high efficiently grinding to have the minimum level of product to recycle. This is something that we have technology for. And we have also technology because when you grind and you produce a lot of hyperfines. And having technology like we have to recycle these hyperfines is very important to basically use whatever you have. And by the way, when we filter our fumes, we get some solid powder called silica fume that goes into the concrete industry.
Right.
So these are things that we can control. Later I can talk about what is more difficult.
Okay, yeah, but actually that point about using everything you have
Yes.
in whatever way it might be, it's not whatever your main product is, that doesn't mean it's your only product. There are byproducts to draw from that. Peter, let me come to you then. You are a circular economist, basically. I mean, you've been driving circular economy issues for a decade or so in Chile, to some, well, I say some success, considerable success, but your focus is really on equipment, in fact, rather than necessarily the mineral itself.
Exactly. I know that Saudi Arabia likes to think big, and I want to seize this opportunity to expand the concept of recycling and transition towards a circular economy, where I see the huge opportunity for Saudi Arabia and for the super region. The great example from our company is that we started focusing on the circular economy of huge equipment that is often used in the mining industry, especially in the copper mining industry. We started remanufacturing, recycling, redesigning, reincorporating these materials and maintaining the value of products and materials for the longest time possible. But we saw the opportunity to not only become one circular economy company, but to introduce this concept to the industry. And it took us, as you said, David, 10 years to introduce this new idea, this new mindset to the mining industry. And we see that this is the opportunity to bridge the Atacama Desert, where I come from, with the Arabian Shield. We see there's a great opportunity to create this new mining industry in the super region that starts out of scratch with the circular economy in its DNA.
It's taken you 10 years to get that realization. I wonder how long it takes to get to a point at which manufacturers build with recycling near the top of their priority list.
I think we're there right now. Today, in the mining industry in Latin America, this is not an idea, it's a business model. And that's something I want to stress. It's not corporate social responsibility, it's not just sustainability, it's a business model with cash flow that has included social and environmental positive impact. But right now we have several success cases in Latin America of manufacturers that are incorporating circular economy as a business model, as success cases.
And that presumably is about scale. If
Absolutely.
you've got the scale, you've got a chance of economies of scale.
Absolutely, and with the amount of material that is generated through the equipment use in the life cycle of a mining company, you can create great business models for manufacturers, and I have no doubt, David, that we will see that happening in the super region.
Okay, Peter, thanks for now. Alec, let me turn to you. Unimetals, if I can put it nicely, you're on the dirty side of the business, wading through the waste, pulling out the benefits.
Exactly. We have built, and we're building every day, a business that is literally the last mile before putting back metals into industry. So in UK, we're sorting and we're organizing logistics to put directly metals into steel mills or to copper smelters. And in UAE, we are basically taking the waste of industrial companies like petrochemicals or gold refineries in order to extract and recover PGMs metals, so platinum, palladium, rhodium, as well as gold, to put them back into the system, put them back into industry, which is an old business, but also a new vision of business, because today most smelters and industries companies are using a mix of mined ore and recycled product. So we're getting into that to create more revenue streams for our clients that were before that putting their metals, their waste to landfills or others. Some were already recycled, but different part of the world, especially US, China, Europe. And we have decided to go and try to localize these businesses closer to our client,
Right.
and closer to where they're needed.
And that makes a lot of business sense, because I was going to ask you, but we're talking already about what is the business case for this, and you wouldn't be doing it if you weren't making money, but one does wonder how much of a business opportunity there is when you are dealing with the scraps.
Look, it depends from metal to metal. If you take the aluminum market, already 70 or 80% of the aluminum is recycled. But when you go to more specialized product like palladium, rhodium, there is some toll processing factories in Europe and US. Clients need to wait 100 or 120 days to get their capital back from the metal recovery. And this is literally what we're trying to answer. The market is structured with 5, 7 very big companies that do that recoveries, and a lot of aggregators around the world. So we are trying to be a young challenger into that and become some kind of a premier aggregator also for these very big companies, because the reality is, in recycling, we cannot do everything ourselves. We need to work with other companies. We need to seek partnerships, and we need to seek new technologies as well as traditional technologies. There's a very big bottleneck with technologies, I would say, where it's very complicated to have new tech financed or with very big interest rates. And companies have trouble to survive that.
Yeah.
And very big companies and OEMs, they will just not take the risk to put new tech into their business, because they need something very stable. So it is a bottleneck that the market is currently facing, and there are new technologies coming into the system, slowly but surely. Eventually, we will get there, but it needs a partnership from the whole industry and from the governments, from the banks, to be able to help us finance, because at the end of the day...
Well, they'll finance if the technology proves a point, maybe. I'm going to come back to you, Alec, because that point about technology is one which I'd like to bring back to the Korean Republic as well. if that's all right, Xiongguang. Is it, how fast is it moving in terms of technology? Because I had it in my head, and I may be wrong, that there's a hope, if not an expectation, that maybe 10% of the need for renewables can be, of the minerals can be driven by recycling. That's a huge amount.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when it comes to battery recycling, the current ratio of recycling is just 2.5%. You know,
So what can you see in terms of technological improvement?
yes, technology has been improving very, very rapidly. You know, we used to use, for example, the pyrometallurgy and hydrometallurgy. Now, the new recyclers have been coming up with direct recycling, which will reduce significantly environmental pollution and emissions reductions, etc. And but there are still many areas for the technology to be improved. For example, how to efficiently discharge safely the discarded batteries, and how to treat wastewaters produced in, for example, hydrometallurgical process, which uses lots of chemicals, etc. So that's precisely why the Korean government has been supporting the technological development through very attractive R&D subsidies and tax credits, and also cultivating qualified manpower and offering favorable financing for R&D and production facilities, etc. On top of the regulatory framework, which should require the mandating of proper disposal and the recycling with a target. And yeah.
The importance of the policy framework is we will get to, because I think, you know, once again, you've all said already, collaboration. This cannot be done in a silo. It's got to be, and you will need help to get there. Alec, I'm going to come back to you now on technology, because the metal recovery hub, Kazad, is something which presumably is accelerating the capacity to recycle. So you're seeing it, are you?
It is accelerating, but it's also entering a lot of non-efficiencies in the market. The fact that only few factories do that in the world creates a lot of logistical issues, a lot of working capital issues for companies, and also less regard for the waste. And waste is something that is extremely important to us, because in a way it's our city way, our urban way to do mining. And it's very important that facilities get closer to different cities in the world, because we are mining directly our own production. We are mining locally what our fathers have mined previously a long time ago. We're reusing that, and this is the proper recycling. And this is, I guess, the difference and the impact that we're trying to make. Because instead of having very strong explorations company to give us the value of our land, we know we can measure that, and we just need strong technologies, but we need also good traders, because it's an economy. We're buying some product, and we're selling a new product, or we're reselling the product itself.
Maybe we've got to the point where we have to get away from the word waste, because it isn't. I mean, certainly for a circular economy perspective, there's almost no such thing as waste. You've got to. There will be another word for it. Better.
In fact, we have a great definition for waste in circular economy. It's a valuable resource put in the wrong hands. So that's a philosophy under the circular economy.
Yeah, that sort of says it, doesn't it? And how far, when we start to talk about policy, how far have you come, have you seen within Chile, to recognize the value of that that helps to make a business case ultimately?
It was super important, but one particularity of the Chilean case, it came from the bottom up. It started with companies, with the private sector, pushing business models, and then the government start seeing that we have success cases that created economic growth, high-quality jobs, and decarbonized the economy. And then, through a great communication throughout the years, these 10 years, they started creating policies. And I think it was an inflection point when we created in Chile the responsibility law for the materials. That changed everything and accelerated the process, definitely. But it wouldn't be able to happen without technology. And I want to talk about what you were discussing earlier. It's not possible to transition towards a circular economy without the technologies of Industry 4.0. It's simply not possible. And that's the double opportunity we see for Latin America and we see now for the super region, because it will allow you to surf, we say, the waves, two waves, circularity and the fourth industrial revolution. It's two ways of winning in this era.
That started, Marco, with the phrase, it came from the bottom up. Do you feel you're on your own in this, in your industry? You're having to find your own solutions?
I absolutely. The thing is, first, I think there was a great presentation from the Minister of Energy yesterday. And I was amazed when finally I heard the word standardization. When I heard everybody should play by the same rules. This was extremely encouraging, because these are really the roadblocks who prevent things from happening faster. Technology sometimes is already there. And let me give you an example. I firmly believe that especially when we start new big projects, like potential projects in this country, there is a tremendous opportunity to do it in synergy between different companies. For example, we produce silicon metal that goes to solar. But if we have a site which is integrated with polysilicon production or ingots and wafers production, then we can manage heat transfer between different companies. So recycle heat. Ferroglobe has technology to recycle the industrial scraps of solar panels, kerf. We can recycle kerf into silicon metal production. We can recycle pot scraps from ingots and wafer production. This technology is already there. And if we had fully integrated sites, we could even think about, recycling end-of-life solar panels. And the same thing applies for silicon in batteries. So I firmly believe in the value of setting up stronger supply chains to favor recycling and improve sustainability of what we do.
So if that collaborative route can be found, it will make a difference. But this is where, interesting, I want to come back to you if I can, Kyung-Hwan, because you said right at the start, Korea is in fierce competition with China.
Yes.
Everyone is in competition with everyone at the same time in these big businesses. The readiness for knowledge sharing, for technology transfer, is it there?
But eventually, technology...
We take that laugh to mean no. So.
Yeah. Eventually, technology can be, in one way or another, shared and spread out. But it would be good for us to create a mechanism to facilitate the sharing of technologies relating to recycling, especially in the broader context of climate change. And in order to do so, I want to stress the critical importance of international collaboration in creating robust global recycling market. I think it is critically important to consider establishing an international agreement regarding the reuse, performance and safety, and transportation standards and recycling targets and the mandatory use of recycled materials in new, for example, batteries.
You think there can be a target?
Yeah,
Precisely.
Otherwise, industries are very, very smart, and they can arbitrage between different regimes. So I think that's very, very important. And on top of that, encouraging or even mandating battery makers to design battery cells, modules, and packs with the ease of disassembly, reuse, and recycling in mind can significantly contribute to the streamlined recycling process.
Okay, not many people will disagree with the ideal of standards. Alec, there is another side to this, of course, where there is huge potential probably, but a massive problem, and that is with artisanal mines. There's not a lot of recycling going on there among many other failings in there. This is an area that I know you have experience in. What can you do about that?
Look, I think artisanal mining is something amazing for certain countries. It's allow a group of people to basically dig out from the ground value where there's no value around them. I think that it has a very strong social impact because around artisanal mining, they're creating communities. And from these communities, they're able to structure themselves and create a life. And by that, I mean creating a small hospital, not hospital clinic or
But something,
depends how you,
yeah.
how something. Be able to work together to bring food or grow food. Be able to create small classrooms for kids to learn together. Of course, there's a lot of issues with artisanal mining, and it's something that the world is trying to find an answer. The governments are trying to find an answer. But at the end of the day, it's the local government that have these artisanal minings that needs to work with their communities in order to structure them. But the impact of an artisanal mining community in the country is huge, because it's literally printing money for the country. It's money they're digging from the ground that they will be able to spend. So it's a very, I think, important link in the chain. And I see recycling very much like artisanal mining for our countries. I see that we have different problems, of course. We don't have the human rights problem, but in our countries, we have the theft problems. There's a lot of problem with theft with metal scrap, and government needs to find a way to answer that and structure it. UK have been very good at it in order to restructure the way scrapyards are working. But it's also the opportunity for groups of people that are facing a high rate of unemployment in Europe especially, to be able to create new revenues by collecting scraps, sorting scraps, to help that chain to put back metal into industries. And just to come back to the previous point you were discussing, I think that what is also highly needed for the recycling market to develop itself is that governments regulate exportations of the scrap. I think that scrap needs to stay local to have the raw material, the feed in countries, to be able to develop that asset, to be able for private investors to invest in new technologies and to localize these
Yes, good point. We're a bit short on time here, but there is an important point I'd like to make, because you've talked about policies, you've talked about standards. What about consumers? What about the simple market value of saying this is recycled, this is made through recycled materials? Is that, do you see that as a coming, or really are consumers still rather ignorant, or perhaps not that bothered?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very, very important. And together with that, I think we need to raise the awareness of the critical importance of recycling in creating circular economy. Consumer has the clout to push the producers to make their products in a more circular economic manner. Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Together with robust regulatory
Of course,
system.
I think that sort of
Yes.
goes hand in hand.
Yes.
Marco,
In
the
terms
consumer,
of,
sorry to
demand-
interrupt you, we're very short on time. The consumer doesn't know much about your business, so
No, they don't. And the key question is, are they prepared to pay more for it? And because they associate recycling to paying less, the fact that when you implement technology or implement the supply chain, you need to invest. And so there is a price factor that
Yeah,
has
well,
to be considered.
Peter, your consumers are perhaps seeing the
Absolutely. We have real cases from mining companies that they say really clear in the contracts, we're willing to pay more if you show that you have a circular business model. And we have contracts to show that that's true. And yesterday came out a great report from a major consultant company saying that 58% of consumers are willing to pay 12% more for sustainable products. So it's something that is a reality right now.
Do you see it as a reality? Do you sort of, okay, that's a study, an opinion survey, I wonder.
I think it depends on the market. I think that when you're going into very heavy metals, like steel or aluminium, there's a lot of recycled already, or industries ready to pay more. No, I don't think they want to pay more. I think that they're looking for new margin with their ESG report. And I think that's important, and that's a very strong impact because it's a pressure that we're putting on companies to recycle more. I think in the precious metal market, there could be a bigger spread in prices. I think that when we're going into to see posh jewelry company like Cartier or these companies cares a lot about where the metal is coming from, how is it mined, is it recycled, what's the CO2 impact. And I think this is a new criteria that they're creating in order to have a more transparent supply chain.
It becomes part of the luxury product,
Exactly.
in fact, is its provenance. Really good point. I think what's clear is there are so many areas in which improvements can be made. It feels to me like that you are not the highest point on the priority list, and yet you are massively important if the target, however vague it is at the moment, is to be reached. So thank you very much indeed for sharing your views. Ladies and gentlemen, our panel, thank you very much indeed. And we're going to hand the stage straight back to Tumi. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.